Then I'm backing off. That's what Theo said as he thrust the divorce papers at me after I told him our son had pediatric cancer. I had fought, surely, learning his son had cancer would change his heart. I believed he would say, let's fight this together. My hopes were shattered. Theo left the next day, leaving me stunned. 10 years later, Theo suddenly reappeared before me. His reaction upon learning about my current situation was, I am Genesis, 35 years old. I married Theo when I was 23. I met Theo on a mixer thrown by a friend. I was nervous at my first mixer, but Theo spoke to me proactively and we had a good time. I thought it would end with just that day, but he asked for my contact information, and we later met just the two of us. When we met privately, Theo chatted with me a lot, and we had a lot of fun. After several dates, we started dating. Being only 23, I wasn't thinking of marriage yet, but Theo was keen on getting married soon. And in fact, he proposed about 6 months into our relationship. I thought it was a bit early to get married after dating for just 6 months, but I enjoyed my time with Theo. He was kind and made me think I could have a happy married life with him, so I agreed. Despite concerns from others, we somewhat forcefully went ahead with the marriage. And soon after, I regretted that decision. Theo, I'm leaving, so please soak the dishes in the sink after you eat. I told him one day, but when I returned home, the dishes were left as is. Even at dinner, he said, "Oh, is it fish today?" I was in the mood for meat. "I'm tired from work, don't you think you should give me some stamina?" He was always complaining. He seemed to take it for granted that I would do the household chores, demanding daily, "Genesis, why haven't you ironed my shirts?" A big perk of marriage is wearing crisply ironed shirts to work every day. Looking back, I should have protested more against Theo's attitude, as we both were working. But being young, I thought that's how it should be. Soon after our marriage, we had a child. That was our son, Weston. Pregnancy was tough. Theo continued to expect housework from me, even during my morning sickness phase. "Hey, I'm having a hard time with morning sickness. Just stir-frying or something makes me sick, even if I'm not eating. Will you cook until my morning sickness subsides?" But he refused, saying, "What's the point of being married if I have to cook? I don't get why you feel sick from cooking. Just wear a mask. You can make porridge or something for yourself." So I endured the nausea and did the housework daily. The hardship seemed worth it the moment Weston was born. He was so adorable, and I felt I could do anything for him. However, the happiness was short-lived. Raising a baby for the first time was hard. I couldn't sleep through the day. There were feedings every 3 hours, and it was often hard to get a full 3 hours of sleep. And of course there are times when I don't know why he is crying. Struggling with first-time parenting and visibly exhausted, Theo didn't lift a finger to help. On the contrary, he said, "Hurry up and stop him from crying. It's too noisy. You're not a good mother if you don't know why he's crying." My boss at work said that mothers can usually tell why a child is crying by the way he cries. I started losing confidence as a mother, hearing such things. At this time, I also asked Theo to help me with housework and childcare, but he said, "Housework and childcare are women's work. Do you know why I got married? How many times do I have to tell you? And if it were a girl, I would have loved her even more." As he grows up, he will become completely unattractive, and I hate just imagining his rebellious period. "If he rebels against me, I'll kick him out of the house." He said that and didn't pay any attention to me at all. No matter what I said, Theo's stance was always, "Housework and childcare are women's jobs, and I'm the one earning more." Indeed, Theo had a higher income, but that was because he did none of the housework, forcing me to reduce my working hours. If I worked full-time, I'd earn more than him. Despite this, Theo always bragged about his income. It saddened me deeply that Theo wouldn't help with housework or childcare. But even more heartbreaking was his lack of love for our beloved son, Weston. I often found myself crying outside while calming a crying Weston in a baby carrier. These days continued, and Weston turned 4. Weston would talk excitedly about his day at preschool and started saying "I love you, Mom," every day. Still, Theo remained indifferent to him. Often, when Weston called him Dad, Theo would ignore him, which was heartbreaking to see. Around this time, I suspected Theo was having an affair. It's a common tale, sudden increases in overtime and weekend work. In addition, he would sometimes be away from home for 2 or 3 days, saying he had a business trip that he had not had to take before as well. Even when I confronted Theo about possibly having an affair, he, of course, denied it. I was just thinking that one of these days I would have to hire a professional detective or a private investigator to find out what was going on. But before I could, Weston's health began to deteriorate. Weston frequently fell ill, with fevers and colds. I was too preoccupied with his health to pursue Theo's suspected infidelity. I was overwhelmed with farts about Weston. Theo, of course, never helped with the caregiving. Instead, he'd say, "I don't want to catch his cold, I'll stay at my parents' place," and leave. "You're probably off to see another woman." In my heart, I fought, but my situation didn't allow me to dwell on it. Weston's health issues continued after that. At that time, Weston was 5 years old. The hospital decided to conduct thorough examinations as something seemed off. Dr. Oliver called me to tell me that the test results were in, and asked me to come talk to him with parents if possible. So I asked Theo to come with me, but he did not come with me this time either, saying it was too much trouble. I had no choice but to go to the hospital alone to hear the news. The news from Dr. Oliver hit me like a hammer blow. Weston had pediatric cancer. Everything went dark before my eyes. Why Weston? I was overwhelmed, collapsing on the spot. Dr. Oliver helped me up and calmed me down. Dr. Oliver was the one who spoke to me then. "Weston will start treatment now. It will be hard for you, but if you look sad, it will make it harder for him." That woke me up. Right, there's no use in being down. I had to be strong for Weston. I went home and told Theo about Weston's cancer. I thought surely Theo would change his heart, knowing his son had pediatric cancer. "Let's get through this together," he said to me. But my hopes were crushed. Theo pondered for a moment and then said, "Then I'm backing off." And he slammed the divorce papers in front of me. I couldn't comprehend what was happening before my eyes. What do you mean?" That was all I could muster. When I heard that the hospital asked for both parents to come, I figured something serious had happened. Like some big illness or something. It was as I expected. To be honest, I was already thinking of divorcing you. Since we got married, you've been nagging me to do housework and participate in childcare. I didn't divorce you because of the kid and what people would think. Now that he has cancer, there is no use in getting treatment for it. If the kid is going to die anyway, I thought, what's the point? Theo said this unbelievable thing in a matter-of-fact manner. He left the divorce papers with me, saying, "Sign your part and submit it," and briskly walked to the bedroom. I was frozen in place for hours, unable to move, staring at the divorce papers. I could tolerate his lack of help with housework and childcare before, but this was too much. But now, I wondered, could I really raise Weston alone while he battles cancer? My parents live far away and are still working, so I can't rely on them. I'll have to work and support Weston through his treatment. Overwhelmed with anxiety, I couldn't stop my tears. The thought of losing Weston made me doubt my ability to go on. As I was engulfed in these farts, Weston, who should have been asleep, came out. I quickly wiped my tears. "Weston, what's wrong? Need to use the bathroom." Weston came to my side as I said. Then, "Mom, what's wrong? Did something sad happen? Did you catch a cold?" "I'm sorry, I always catch a cold. I'll take care of you this time." He said it gently to me. Trying not to worry him, I wiped my tears, but they wouldn't stop as I hugged him. That's right, I have to be strong. I decided to protect Weston. I reaffirmed my resolve. The next day, Theo packed his things and left without saying goodbye to us. Then, 10 years passed. I was shopping at the mall when I heard, "Finally found you." Turning around, there was Theo. It was no surprise that he was older than he was 10 years ago, but he looked somewhat gaunt, and the clothes he was wearing were shabby. As I stood there in shock, Theo continued talking. "I've been looking for you. You moved and don't use social media. I asked friends and heard you might live around here, so I've been coming to this store." "What do you want now?" I asked. Theo said, "I'm your ex-husband, so why are you treating me like a stranger? You're still alone anyway, aren't you?" I don't think anyone would marry a grump like you, and you must be lonely now that you don't have a kid anymore. Let's start over again. You're only 35 years old, so you can still have another baby." He continued to blabber on and on. Theo had remarried in the last 10 years, but had no children, and divorced again. He smirked. "It's sad to be alone in old age, right?" Now understanding the situation, I replied, "I've already had a second child, so I'm fine. And I'm not lonely at all." Theo looked baffled. Then a voice called out, "Mom." There stood Weston, my younger son, and my current husband. Theo turned around, stunned. "Weston, you're alive." Weston froze at the sight of Theo, too. I guided Weston behind me and faced Theo. Weston is now 15 years old, and this is our 7-year-old son and my current husband. Theo murmured, "You remarried," and glared at Oliver. "Who is this guy? He can't be much of a man." My husband, quickly grasping the situation, introduced himself to Theo. "Nice to meet you. My name is Oliver, and I am Genesis' current husband. I was Weston's doctor, so have you at least heard about me? Or have you never heard of me at all because you never cared about your family at all?" That's right. I had remarried Dr. Oliver, Weston's doctor. He had always been compassionate towards Weston and supportive of me, even after my divorce from Theo. And he always listened to me when I was struggling alone. I had developed feelings for Dr. Oliver, but our relationship as doctor and patient's mother prevented me from confessing. However, a chance private meeting and a meal together led to our relationship, and he later proposed. Weston, who enjoyed spending time with Dr. Oliver, quickly warmed up to him, and I happily accepted the proposal. Dr. Oliver was a wonderful husband and doctor. And Theo seemed to have believed Weston had passed away, but thanks to dedicated treatment, Weston's illness was completely cured. He's now healthy and full of life. After Weston's recovery, we were blessed with a second child. Theo collapsed on the spot, saying, "Married a doctor." He seemed shocked that I found happiness after our divorce. But then he looked at Weston and said, "Weston, you remember me, right? I'm your real father. You want to be with your real dad, don't you? You're just accepting this situation because you have to, right? Tell the truth." Weston looked at me, and I told him, "You can say what you want." Then Weston went in front of Theo and said, "I hardly remember you. But I do remember that there was a man at home when I was little who did nothing and ignored me, and who always made my mother sad. I have never thought of you as my father. My father is the only father I have now." Hearing this, Theo was completely stunned and motionless. Dr. Oliver then said, "Do you understand now? Tommy, Weston is my real son. If you show up again, we'll call the police." We left Theo standing there, defeated. Afterwards, I learned about Theo's situation when his parents called, asking if I would reconsider getting back with their son. The reason for Theo's remarriage and subsequent divorce was his infidelity, and now he's struggling to pay alimony. "You have a good job and come from a wealthy family. Surely you can help," they said, but of course, I refused. Theo is now working multiple jobs to pay the alimony. "That's no longer my concern," I said and hung up. Returning to the living room, my sons and husband looked worried, probably seeing my distressed face. "Mom, what's wrong? Who was on the phone? Did something happen?" they asked. I replied with a smile, "No, it was just a wrong number." These days, I'm so happy it almost scares me. After all, as Theo said, I'm only 35 years old. Indeed, I am considering having another child.